Hey, welcome. We're so glad you're all here with us tonight, and welcome to people that are joining us online. We are so excited to have Dr. Lisa Kay joining us tonight for the John and Betty Michael Distinguished Autobiographical Lecture Series. First, what we're going to do, I'm Stephanie Denker.
I'm Luke Meekin.
And we're thrilled to welcome you from the Art Education program at Miami University.
And let's kick things off with our land acknowledgement before we start this evening's festivity. Apologies if I'm reading off of this, but the words were co-written with members of the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma, and it's really important to get those words right. So, Miami University is located within the traditional homelands of the Miami and Shawnee people, who along with other indigenous groups ceded these lands to the United States in the First Treaty of Greenville in 1795. The Miami people, whose name our university carries, were forcibly removed from these homelands in 1846. In 1972, our relationship between Miami University and the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma began and evolved into a reciprocal partnership, including the creation of the Miami Center at Miami University in 2001. The work of the Miami Center serves the Miami Tribe community and is dedicated to the revitalization of Miami language and culture and to restoring that knowledge to the Miami people. The Miami University and the Miami Tribe are proud of this work and of the Miami students who have attended Miami since 1991 through the Miami Heritage Award Program. And before we go further, our chair, Amanda, is traveling to, I believe, Michigan for a conference right now, but she wanted to make sure to welcome you to Lisa, so we could have video from her that
nice.
bring up on the computer.
Hi, Dr. Lisa Kay. My name is Amanda Alexander. I'm the chair of the Department of Art. I'm also an art educator, and I've been a fan of yours for a long time, reading your work throughout the years. I was really pleased to see that you were selected for the John and Betty Michael's Autobiographical Lecture. I think it's a great honor. We've had so many people who have been here at Miami who've done this lecture, and it's just wonderful to add your name to the list. I also want to thank you for being with our students and faculty today. I know that they've been able to get a very enriching experience being with you. And again, I congratulate you on this award, and I thank you for spending time at Miami University.
Next, I would like to just tell you a little bit about this lecture series. The John A. and Betty J. Michael Autobiographical Lecture Series in Art Education was initiated by Dr. John Michael with a generous gift from he and his wife Betty in 1972 when Edwin Ziegfeld lectured at Miami University. Outstanding educators who have retired or in new retirement are invited to present autobiographical lectures in the series, noting the influences which have shaped their philosophy about art education and the arts. In 1991, John Michael was the featured lecturer himself, adding to the ongoing lineup of influential and honored speakers. As part of an effort to make this important series more widely accessible, we have a website that offers documents and archives that were part of each speaker's visit. Although this digital opportunity wasn't imaginable at the series' inception, we believe that it honors the mission of the series in sharing and honoring the important contributions of so many prominent art educators. The series continues each year at Miami University through the Art Education program. This digital collection will continue to grow as we uncover more documents within our archives and as more of our students interact and contribute to its development. So we had a workshop this morning, and that's also a part of the endowment and the archives, but that's why we're recording everything as well. So we're so happy that you're here with us tonight. All right, so now I'm going to read Dr. Lisa Kay's bio. Lisa Kay is a professor and chair of the Department of Art Education and Community Arts Practice and graduate director of the MA in Art Therapy program, Tyler School of Art and Architecture at Temple University. She's an artist, arts-based researcher, art educator, and art therapist whose creative voice is manifested in and enhanced by the integration of these identities. She considers art, teaching, and therapy as an integral part of her practice. Dr. Kay is the author of Therapeutic Approaches in Art Education, 2020, and co-editor of Restorative Practices in Education Through the Arts, 2025, both published by Davis Publications. She is also a major contributor to the volume Art for Children Experiencing Psychological Trauma, a guide for art educators and school-based professionals, 2018. Dr. K's research and artwork have been published in the Wiley Blackwell Handbook of Art Therapy, Oxford Handbook of Qualitative Research, International Journal of Education Through Art, International Journal of Education and the Arts, Visual Inquiry, Learning and Teaching Art, Liminalities, a Performance Studies Journal, and Music Therapy Perspectives. A board-certified art therapist, Kay's research and publications concern the intersections and collaborations between art education and art therapy, resilience in art making with those who have experienced trauma and adversity, narrative art making and healing, and the use of creative arts and visual imagery as both pedagogical and qualitative research methods. A distinguished fellow of the National Art Education Association, Lisa has received numerous awards for her work and significant contributions. She's a Fulbright Scholar, 2010, the recipient of the NAEA 2014 Women's Caucus Mary Rouse Award, and the 2016 NAEA Council on Exceptional Children and Kennedy Center Very Special Arts, and is a Peter Geiser Special Needs Educator of the Year. Lisa Kay has exhibited her artwork in the United States and Europe. Her interest in narrative storytelling that encourages personal reflection, self-knowledge, and healing in the context of making art is evidenced in her scholarly publications and her dedication to art education and art therapy, in her selection of focus for her Fulbright, and in her own art. So that tells you a little bit about her. She's wonderful, and we are really looking forward to hearing about your journey, Lisa. So thank you for joining us, and all of you for being here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It's really humbling to hear someone else talk about you and your work. I want to just begin by just telling you what a wonderful honor it is to be here today as the 25-26 John and Betty Michael Autobiographical Distinguished Lecturer. That's a mouthful. I'm humbled by those outstanding scholars in the field of art education that have stood before me, and I'm grateful to Miami University for this invitation. And I want to specifically thank the Department of Art, Amanda Alexander, Stephanie Danker, and Luke Meakin for your behind-the-scenes attention to all the details to make this happen. So before I get started, I want to just tell you a little bit. This is kind of going to be like a stage reading of a play. And I'm going to explain a little bit about the details and why in just a moment. Okay. Dancing with My Bones. So this beginning is the playwright's note, title explanation. Dancing with My Bones is the title of a piece of artwork that I created while on a Vision Quest retreat when I spent a weekend in solitude, walking, meditating, and making art for my 50th birthday. Beads and found objects in each section represent significant people and different aspects of my life. The silver filigree tubes flanked by moonstone beads represent my bones, connecting everything together, while the goddess amulet symbolizes the divine feminine and creative energy. So why an artist's life in 3 acts? When I was in graduate school, I recall reading a book that stuck with me titled Every Person's Life is Worth a Novel. It was written by Irving Polster, a Gestalt therapist who believed that everyone's life was filled with stories to be told. If we stop to observe our own lives, these stories could fill a novel. In my work, I look at things as though they are plays being acted out. Our lives are filled with dramatic narratives that need to be acknowledged, written, and performed. So following Polster's argument, every person's life is like a play. Prologue. Dancing with My Bones, An Artist's Life in 3 Acts, is an autobiographical playlet with vignettes about my personal and professional life as an artist, art therapist, and art educator, and the interconnectivity of my practice, my art practice, my therapy practice, and my teaching practice. The words and images scroll like those seen in a dream, a phantasmagoria, so to speak. Act 1, Coming to Voice. To borrow some words from Bell Hooks, coming to voice is not just the act of telling one's experience, it's using that telling strategically to come to voice so that you speak freely about other subjects. Scene 1, the story begins. My story begins in Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born. I was about 6, a happy-go-lucky little girl with curly, dark brown hair. I loved to play grocery, to make art, and to have meetings of the Jug, Just Us Girls Club, in my playroom on the 2nd floor of our blonde bungalow on Belvedere Street in Memphis, Tennessee. I took great delight in playing in my grandmother's button box, creating art with buttons and beads. I wonder, how did I learn to express myself or come to voice, as described by bell hooks? I continue to scroll through the images in my head, quietly, being a good girl, making good grades, and by making art. Art became a pull thread, a connecting cord, a way to create myself. I could speak better through my art, and my creativity gave me voice. I rolled through more images. I saw how-to books, how to make art kits, and art supplies. Oh, how I loved the smell of a new set of crayons or the sight of freshly sharpened colored pencils to do art projects. Scene 2, artful responses. Growing up, I frequently constructed aesthetic responses to class assignments. 2 projects stand out from Miss Shear's junior high class. First, in science, I made a fish mosaic using different colors of dried beans and split peas for scales, gluing everything together on a piece of plywood. Second, for social studies, when studying ancient Egypt, I created a paper-mache sarcophagus and spray painted it gold. Then I mummified my Barbie, wrapping her in torn sheets I had dipped in tea and sprinkled her with pickling spices, glitter, and beads before closing the lid. I earned an A on both assignments. Scene 3, the high school years. During high school, my passion for art continued. 2 experiences stand out. First was being elected as co-art historian of our B'nai B'rith Girls BBG youth group with my friend Cheryl. We would have sleepovers, stay up all night, and spend hours visually documenting events and accomplishments in a large 18-inch by 24-inch format scrapbook, way before scrapbooking was the rage. That scrapbook was entered into an international competition and ours won first place. 2, another experience I remember. This time it's Mrs. Wilson, my high school art teacher, who dressed in monochromatic colors, pink, maroon, and red, or avocado, Kelly, and forest greens. Oh, how she disturbed my adolescent sensibilities. Looking back, she reminded me of Miss Valerie Frizzle, the magic school bus teacher. Mrs. Wilson must have helped me find my aesthetic voice because she inspired me to study art in college. I went on to receive my BFA in graphic design from then Memphis State University. I got a job after graduation in the university advertising and marketing department as a graphic designer. I loved working there with talented artists and creatives where I designed some award-winning publications, posters, and brochures for continuing education. Scene 4, something's missing. Despite enjoying this work, I wasn't satisfied, but didn't know why. Then, one day, while researching a graphic design project, I stumbled across a book in the stacks at the library, The Psychology of Children's Art by Rhoda Kellogg and Scott Odell, explored developmental stages in children's artwork, providing direction on fostering creativity without intervention. This book changed the trajectory of my life. I realized I was fascinated with psychology of art, children's art, and the stages of children's art, and wanted to work with children. So I decided to switch careers completely and to go to graduate school to become an art therapist. But this was a big challenge because where I was living at the time, there weren't any art therapists in the state of Tennessee, and there were no art therapy programs. As a result, I petitioned the university to let me design my own program. So with the support of a committee that included a special educator, a psychologist, a sociologist, we developed my program. I took courses all over the university and completed my master's degree in individual studies. Act 2, therapy. Scene 1, more education. I started going to art therapy conferences and reading everything I could to learn about the field of art therapy. What I discovered was that to realize my goal to become an art therapist, I needed more education, specifically courses taught by art therapists. Oh no, how was I going to manage that? At one art therapy conference in Kansas City, I met my future husband, Scott, who's here tonight. Hi, Scott. Scott's dad, Robert, was chair of the art department at Pittsburgh No H State University in Kansas. Bob wanted to know more about art therapy because they wanted to start a program. His sons came to an event at the conference because they wanted to meet women. Scott claims he also wanted to learn about art therapy. The rest is history. Shortly after that conference, I managed to move to St. Louis, where I enrolled in the St. Louis Institute of Art Psychotherapy. Scott moved to St. Louis too. We bought a restaurant. While I was in this program, it was essentially another master's degree. Scott ran the restaurant that was near the University of Missouri at St. Louis. While in St. Louis, I developed art therapy programs in hospital waiting rooms and clinics at Cardinal Glennon's Children's Hospital. I was hired as the first art therapist at a large metropolitan hospital in St. Louis, St. John's Mercy Medical Center, where our son Clayton was born. I started the program and did what I call ping pong table art therapy, because I had art therapy groups in a rec room on the psychiatric unit. While it was less than ideal, I didn't mind because the patients, the staff, the doctors could come in and see what I was doing. Not so private, but it was great advertising. Over my time there, art therapy spread over the hospital to all the psychiatric units: acute care, comprehensive care, eating disorders, adolescent, senior adults, to rehab, the burn center, and pediatrics, where I started the first child life program at the hospital. Scene 2, art is the therapy. I often said that my practice as an art therapy was my art. I said this because I collaborated with other art therapists and music therapists, designing expressive therapy interventions that use metaphors and materials and our creativity to engage patients to promote therapeutic growth and change. As an artist, I use my creative vision and artistic sensibilities to bring new perspectives to those I work with in therapy, art therapy. I created art with and for people to promote healing, growth, and change. As an art therapist, I use the arts to help resolve individual and family challenges. I worked with the imagery and the imagination and the metaphors that surfaced inherent in their expression. I worked with art materials and art processes in therapeutic and artistic interventions. I worked with a creative process involved in art making and believe it enhanced life and healing by others and helped them to see themselves in new ways. As an educator, I imparted knowledge about the use of art in the healing process and guided others in accessing their creative source. I educated others on their creative acts that can help them organize and create new forms from the complexity and confusion and chaos in their lives. Scene 3, the time of my life. I had the opportunity to direct a psychosocial art therapy program in the special education school for students with social and emotional disorders at Catholic Children's Home in Alton, Illinois, which was just right across the river from St. Louis. Students there were referred from their home school districts. Some of them came or were bused 25 miles away to come to this special school. We had a full cadre of support services: speech therapy, recreation therapy, art therapy, music therapy, counseling, and social work. We all worked together with children and adolescents, K through 12, who had a wide range of ability levels, diagnoses, and social and behavioral challenges. We worked with them individually, in small groups, and with full classrooms. Students often called me their art teacher instead of their art therapist, which was fine, even though I didn't have a degree in art education. Every year, we transform the art room into a gallery. All the kids' artwork, which was created in art therapy, was included. Everyone received participation ribbons, which they carried around proudly. The staff, the teachers, and the families were just amazed at the stories the students told through their artwork. One student who I worked with for several years was Monica. She had been in and out of state hospitals and treatment centers. She had been diagnosed with many diagnoses and been prescribed quite a few different medications that, according to Monica, the medications didn't work and the diagnoses weren't right. She was very creative and loved art. I was able to hire her as our work study student in the art therapy room and she helped prep materials for groups, helped keep the room organized, and did special projects. Additionally, we met for art therapy weekly, so she was almost in the room daily. I submitted 2 of her pieces of artwork to the book Childhood Revealed: Art Expressing Pain, Discovery, and Hope, sponsored by the Child Study Center at NYU. Of 600 submissions, 100 were accepted, including both of Monica's. Her artwork would be published in a book and in a traveling show. She was thrilled, and I was too. This powerful, illuminating book provided a peek into the inner worlds of children with emotional, psychological, and physical problems. In addition, the work was exhibited at the Whitney Museum in New York. The school sent Monica and her mother and me to the show, where we met all the other kids whose work was featured in the book. And we met Katie Couric, who wrote the foreword to the book and delivered the opening remarks at the exhibition. One of Monica's paintings, large paintings, Thorns, which you see here, was front and center when we entered the museum. How excited we all were to see that. Her description that hung by the painting was quite poignant. It read, "I'm the circles, my mom and dad are the triangles, trying to keep me from death." As you can imagine, this was a major turning point in Monica's life. After we returned from the show, we began to work on this piece that you see on the slide, The Time of My Life. We worked together in therapy for 6 months on this piece. Monica explored aspects of herself she hadn't examined in previous therapy processes. When asked to write an artist statement about this piece, she wrote, "This is powerful because it represents what art therapy is. This piece shows the transition from the way I was to how I am now and how I want to be." Artifacts created during therapy and independently utilize creative energy in the expressive arts to guide the image-making process. It is the image that integrates the mind and body where understanding and healing reside. Postscript. Monica wrote to me years later that she was doing great. She thanked me and told me she wanted to go to art school and she hoped to become an art therapist. Act 3, Art Education. What's next? Meeting Debbie. The words of Dan Fogelberg's song seem particularly apropos now. And you don't know what you're going to do next. You wait for the sun, but it never quite comes. Some kind of message comes through to you. Some kind of message comes through. And it says to you, love when you can, cry when you have to. Be who you must. It's a part of the plan. Await your arrival with simple survival. And one day we'll all understand. One day we'll all understand. My family moved to Northern Illinois, and I resigned my position at the special education school. I wanted to concentrate on my artwork, so I began exhibiting and selling my contemporary story beads. My artwork connects to the rhythm of my soul. It mirrors female spirituality, celebrates milestones, losses and transitions, and is part of my research process. It is therapeutic and spiritual in nature and constitutes narrative art and craft. In my artwork, I play with color and texture, mixing the precious with the mundane. I experiment with light and energy, movement, and sound. Each piece has its own narrative. While I was exhibiting my artwork, I was also practicing independently as a board-certified art therapist at the Center for Counseling and building my art therapy practice. I loved making and selling my artwork. I loved my work at the center, yet things weren't coming together until I met Dr. Debbie Smithshank. I heard there was an art therapy program at Northern Illinois University, where I was, nearby, and I was curious about teaching courses there. My curiosity led to lunch with Debbie at a little Thai restaurant in DeKalb, Illinois. I learned from Deb that due to state budget cuts, the art therapy program was cut. She encouraged me to enter their doctoral program instead, to combine my art education and art therapy skills. I questioned how I would fit coming from a therapeutic background. Deb and I talked a lot about how my knowledge and experiences in art therapy seemed foreign to the many concepts and practices in art education. We often had conversations about what Deb described as the artificial and modernist conceptions of disciplinary boundaries that kept the fields of art education and art therapy so very territorial and separate. The choice to pursue a doctorate in art education was not an easy one, but I did it. And in no time, I was immersed in teaching and learning about art, education, and research. Debbie said I was a strong force for reconciliation, since contemporary art education was a field with amorphous and postmodern boundaries whose content could only be enriched by someone challenging boundaries. She understood. Scene 2, everything is connected. What I began to understand was that everything was connected. There were no mistakes. Art was integral in my research practice, and my teaching was part of my art practice. I was able to infuse my therapeutic skills in my work. I found my creative voice in my multiple identities as art therapist, art educator, artist, researcher, which are essential for me to balance these roles and realms. I knew no other way. I know no other way. My work bridges the two hybrid fields, art education and art therapy. My interest in narrative storytelling that encourages personal reflection, self-knowledge, and healing in the context of making art is evidenced by all that I do. My scholarly publications, my dedication to both art education and art therapy, and certainly my own work. As a Jewish female artist, scholar, teacher, my work has been inspired by Friedel Dicker Brandeis, the Bauhaus-trained artist renowned for her work with the children of Terezin, the concentration camp outside Prague during World War II. Scene 3, serendipitous encounter. After I graduated with my doctorate in art education, I began applying for jobs in higher education. One of my professors at Northern Illinois University, Dr. Carrie Friedman, told me about a job in Philadelphia at Temple University, Tyler School of Art. I didn't think I wanted to move to the East Coast, but I applied anyway. In a very short time, I got a phone call from Dr. Joanna Moore, had a phone interview, and a week later, I was invited to campus for an interview. Joanna picked me up at the Philly airport for my interview at Temple. Prior, she gave me her cell phone number with clear instructions where to meet her. She said, "Call me when you're in baggage claim." I did. I said, "I'm here." Joanna said, "Turn around." And I turned around, and there she was. And we just laughed. Ever since I landed at Temple, Joanna has been a mentor, a confidant, a colleague, a dear friend. She has always supported me by attending conference presentations, reading drafts of writing, listening, providing insights and advice. She even covered some of my classes when I went to Budapest to complete my research and teaching as a part of my Fulbright, which was Bridging Borders, Art Therapy and Art Education. While in Hungary, I had an opportunity to teach art therapy classes at Moholy-Nagy University of Art and Design, and I mentored and consulted with doctoral students at ELTE University, which is a public research university in Budapest. I also had the opportunity to do research at the Jewish Museum in their archive that held 4,000 pieces of children's artwork that was created in the camp under the guidance of Friedel Dicker Brandeis. Joanna mentored me toward tenure even after she retired in 2013. She has continued while I've been department chair for the last 9 years. She always reminded me of what's important. Make everything as clear as a bell, easy for them to say yes. Telescope it. do what's best for the students, and most of all, family is everything. Joanna died last August, and her influence on me and my work will carry on. Epilogue. Joni Mitchell wrote and sang the song, The Circle Game. The chorus goes like this. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came and go round and round and round in the circle game. I've come full circle. Bricolage is a three-dimensional representation of my teaching philosophy. Large objects symbolize key concepts: communication, culture, community, and critical reflection. The small unifying beads signify my identities: artist, art therapist, art educator, and the interdisciplinary domains of art, education, and therapy. As the Canadian novelist and poet Margaret Atwood puts it in her 2006 book, Moral Disorders, I see it in retrospect, indulgently, from the point I have reached now. How else can I see it? Like the myth, Phoenix rising from the ashes, I see it as I look back, an ongoing process of becoming, a cycle of regeneration and transformation, growth and triumph. In conclusion, I have a few parting words, my top 10 list, so to speak. Some are my own, some from people I admire. Find your pull thread. Be who you must. That's the part of the plan. Everything is connected. There are no mistakes. Stay connected to your creative core. Follow your bliss. Pay attention to the cycles of nature. Be open to possibilities. Take risks. Be bold and carry on. Thank you for listening.
Have a special award to give to Dr. A. This has to be the most beautiful one we've ever gotten. So, we are so grateful for you for coming and engaging with our students and for being a part of the lecture series. And now you're going to be part of our archive and then our next volume of the book of the lectures. So thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom and your dedication to the field.
Thank you so much, and thank all of you for being here tonight. I really appreciate that.